If you've been living with diabetes and you've been told that carbs are the enemy, that every bite of rice, bread or fruit is slowly harming you, I need you to listen very carefully, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you think about food. For years, millions of people have been cutting carbs out of their lives, believing they're doing the right thing. But what if that fear is actually making diabetes harder to manage, not easier? That sounds uncomfortable, I know, but stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand what the real problem is, and more importantly, what actually helps your body work with diabetes instead of fighting it. By the time we're done here, you're going to see why avoiding carbs entirely isn't just unnecessary, it can be counterproductive, and I'm not saying this to be controversial. This is based on how the body actually uses energy, how blood sugar behaves, and why so many people feel stuck even when they think they're doing everything right. I'm not giving medical advice, and you should always talk to your doctor or dietitian before changing your diet. But what I am sharing is information that helps you understand what's really happening inside your body, and once you see it clearly, the fear around food starts to fade. Let's start with the belief that causes more anxiety than almost anything else in diabetes management, the idea that carbs must be avoided at all costs. Somewhere along the way, carbs became the villain. They were blamed for blood sugar spikes, weight gain, and long-term complications. And for some people, the reaction was extreme. No rice, no bread, no fruit, no potatoes, just protein and fat, day after day. At first, that can feel empowering, like you're finally in control, but then, something strange happens. Energy drops, meals stop feeling satisfying, cravings get stronger, and blood sugar, frustratingly, doesn't always improve the way you expected. Here's the part most people don't realize. Carbohydrates are not optional fuel. They're a primary energy source for your body and for your brain especially. In fact, carbohydrates can account for up to half of your body's daily energy needs. When you remove them completely, your body doesn't magically stop needing energy. Instead, it adapts in ways that aren't always ideal, especially for long-term health. The issue with carbs isn't their existence, it's the type, the amount, and the way they're absorbed. Think about how different carbs behave. Simple carbohydrates like refined sugar, sweets, and sugary drinks rush into your bloodstream quickly. They cause sharp spikes in blood sugar because they're absorbed almost immediately. That's where the real problem starts. Not with carbs themselves, but with how fast and how aggressively they raise glucose levels. Now compare that to starch-based carbohydrates, things like whole grains, legumes, and certain vegetables. These break down more slowly, releasing glucose at a steadier pace, giving your body time to respond. This is why completely avoiding carbs misses the point. Instead of asking, should I eat carbs, the better question is, which carbs support stable blood sugar and sustained energy? When you choose starch-based carbohydrates that are digested more slowly, you're working with your body. Instead of shocking it, you're giving it predictable fuel rather than sudden overloads. And that distinction alone can make a noticeable difference in how you feel throughout the day. Now let's talk about fruit, because this is where confusion really peaks. Fruit has sugar, so people assume it must be bad. You might have even heard someone say fruit is basically candy, just natural candy. That comparison sounds logical until you look closer. Fruit doesn't just contain sugar, it also contains fiber, water, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. These components slow down how sugar enters your bloodstream and support overall metabolic health. Does that mean you can eat unlimited fruit without thinking about blood sugar? No, and this is where moderation matters. Eating fruit in moderation allows you to benefit from its nutrients without overwhelming your system. The problem isn't having fruit. The problem is having large quantities of fruit juice, dried fruit, or fruit-based desserts that concentrate sugar without the fiber that normally slows absorption. When you eat whole fruit, especially alongside meals, the impact on blood sugar is very different from what people fear. This brings us to fiber, one of the most overlooked heroes in diabetes nutrition. Fiber doesn't get absorbed like other carbohydrates. Instead, it slows digestion. It creates a kind of buffer that helps prevent sharp rises in blood sugar after meals. When you consume sufficient fiber, your body processes carbohydrates more gradually, which means more stable glucose levels and fewer extreme highs and lows. Fiber also helps with fullness. It keeps you satisfied longer, which naturally reduces overeating and constant snacking. And here's something many people don't expect. When fiber intake is too low, even meals that seem low-carb can lead to unstable blood sugar because the body processes what little carbohydrate is there too quickly. Fiber isn't just an accessory, it's a key part of making carbohydrates work properly in your body. Now let's clear up another misconception that causes a lot of confusion: protein. Many people believe that all protein is completely safe for blood sugar, but that's only partly true. Animal protein, like meat, fish, and eggs, does not contain carbohydrates and generally does not raise blood sugar directly. That's why it's often emphasized in diabetes diets. However, not all protein comes from animals, and this is where people get surprised. Plant-based proteins, such as beans, lentils, and certain grains, do contain carbohydrates. So do dairy products like milk and yogurt. That doesn't mean they're bad, it means they need to be understood. These foods often come with fiber and other nutrients that slow carbohydrate absorption, but they still contribute to total carbohydrate intake. Ignoring that can lead to unexpected blood sugar changes and frustration when numbers don't behave the way you expect. Understanding where carbs come from helps you make informed choices instead of reacting out of fear. When you know that a food contains carbohydrates, you can plan portions, balance meals, and pair foods in a way that supports stable glucose levels. Knowledge reduces anxiety. Guessing increases it. Now let's talk about weight, because this topic is sensitive, but important. Maintaining a healthy weight plays a significant role in diabetes risk and management. The heavier you weigh, the higher the strain on your body's ability to regulate blood sugar. Excess weight, especially around the abdomen, is strongly linked to insulin resistance, which makes diabetes harder to control. But here's where the conversation usually goes wrong. Weight management is often framed as punishment. Eat less. Restrict more. Cut out entire food groups. That approach might work temporarily, but it's rarely sustainable, and it often leads to cycles of restriction and relapse. A healthier approach focuses on balance, nourishment, and habits you can actually maintain long-term. When you choose foods that provide steady energy, adequate fiber, and proper nutrition, your body is better able to regulate appetite and metabolism naturally. Weight changes become a side effect of healthier patterns, not the result of extreme rules. And that shift in mindset alone can reduce stress, which itself plays a role in blood sugar control. This is why personalized guidance matters so much. Consulting a dietitian can make a huge difference because diabetes is not one size fits all. Your nutritional needs depend on your lifestyle, your medications, your activity level, and your overall health. A dietitian helps you understand how different foods affect your blood sugar specifically, not just how they affect people in general. Instead of guessing, instead of copying advice from the internet that wasn't meant for you, you get clarity. You get a plan that fits your life, your culture, and your preferences. And when a plan fits your life, you're far more likely to stick with it, which is what truly leads to better outcomes over time. So let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Diabetes management isn't about fear. It isn't about eliminating entire food groups or living in constant restriction. It's about understanding how your body responds to food and making choices that support stability, energy, and long-term health. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. Unbalanced meals, lack of fiber, and misinformation are. When you replace fear with understanding, everything changes. Meals become less stressful. Food becomes nourishment again, not a threat. And instead of constantly worrying about what you shouldn't eat, you start focusing on what helps you feel better, stronger, and more in control. If you've made it this far, you now understand why simply avoiding carbs isn't the solution, and why balanced nutrition matters more than extreme rules. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. There's so much more to learn about how small, realistic changes can have a powerful impact on diabetes management, and that's exactly what this channel is about. Look, if this video helped you see diabetes nutrition in a clearer, calmer way, then you should absolutely subscribe. Every week, we break down health topics like this in a way that's honest, practical, and easy to understand, without fear-based messaging or unrealistic advice. Thousands of people are already using this information to make smarter choices and feel more confident about their health, and you can be next. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us here because the next video dives even deeper into habits that quietly improve blood sugar control without turning your life upside down. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.